It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 400.
Ooh.
Tonight I'm joined by Ammo,
Huzzah!
Ashgar,
Woohoo!
Grace,
Hooray!
Kodra.
I've just received word HBO Max is pulling down our back archive.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hi.
So
Yes, everyone remember that what is it exactly? In a capitalist society, piracy is a moral imperative.
It is. Also, so here's a thing. Between when we recorded our last show and this show, I decided, hey, we should do something different for episode 400. It would have been handy had I thought of this ahead of time to announce it on the last show, to maybe actually, reach out specifically to people that may listen but don't interact with social media. But I had this idea. I had like several ideas, and then the one that we kind of landed on was, I wonder if we could do a Q&A show. And over the course of the last week, we've gotten some questions, which is a larger list than I was afraid we would get. And so it's interesting. I've tried to organize the questions in some sort of an order. Because we got some widely variant questions. Also, some of these questions are going to be funny because someone out there thinks we had a plan.
I mean,
But there were
boy.
anonymous submissions, so I don't know whose questions are what. So we'll start off with a light icebreaker, and this one also cracks me up because it's not a thing I would have ever asked anyone, but what is everyone's favorite drink and favorite food pairing to go with it? I'm not that fancy.
I'm not
Hello.
very fancy.
My answer is chai tea and a cinnamon roll.
That sounds good, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds very good.
I mean, my drink of choice tends to be either sweet tea or some form of Kool-Aid because I'm not fancy. And that goes with everything. If we're talking about alcoholic beverages, probably my favorite thing is a thing that I used to make all the time in college and still occasionally make, which is vodka, Everclear, and Tampico. And I used to call it a ratchet screwdriver.
Wow, Belle.
Man.
Belle! Wow.
fancy.
Yep.
Good God.
I'm
Belle takes a very
scared.
utilitarian approach to alcohol.
Clearly.
Yes.
So my answer is something called a swamp donkey.
Swamp donkey.
Is this related to a mule?
You know what? That's probably where the name came from. Now that you say that, because
Seems logical.
I think it is muddled cucumber, basil, lime juice, ginger beer, and gin.
Yep. That sounds like a derivative of a mule of some sort.
But it's very good. It was described to me as something that tastes exactly like spring, and that it was very true when I tasted it. I mostly just drank these when Tam and I used to go to this one bar and drink. So I don't know what I pair it with. Good times. If I'm really looking for a drink that I pair well, though, it's like a very crisp lager with food from an izakaya. Like Japanese beer at an izakaya is the best thing ever.
You are not wrong.
Because everything at an izakaya is supposed to taste good with the Japanese beer.
Mm-hmm. So for me, if it's the morning time, coffee.
Obviously, a good call. Yeah.
If it's afternoon and I want afternoon or evening and I want something non-alcoholic, Dr. Pepper. If I want to mix drink, just gin and tonic. To pair it with, I mean, coffee goes good with donuts. I guess probably my favorite thing to pair the gin and tonic with would be something from the really great Eastern European place that we have nearby. They got really good bacon wrapped dates. Maybe those.
That sounds delicious.
So I'm curious, what type of coffee do you go for?
I mean, I just make like community coffee with
Okay.
a little sugar and a little half and half. I don't get fancy with my coffee.
Yeah, I'm not fancy with coffee either. I'll drink like car salesman coffee if I have to.
I mean, I do it as a pour over and ensure that I'm like, making decent tasting coffee, but
Okay.
like I'm not getting expensive with it.
Do you have a preference of what type of coffee you would prefer to use?
I mean, mostly just by community.
Okay, is that a brand?
Yeah,
That's
okay.
a common thing around here.
just community coffee, like house blend.
Okay.
Nothing fancy, but like I feel like it's a step or two up from Folgers. So
Fair enough.
It is one of those things that's commonly like coffee service in businesses around here.
Yeah.
Which I guess would be Starbucks in around here.
I mean, sometimes I go get Starbucks, but I don't know.
Most
Generally, I feel like I'm paying extra for coffee that's not much better than what I could just make at home. So
I mean, I don't disagree with that statement.
I had this realization earlier this year. I've never been in a Starbucks.
Really?
That's impressive.
We didn't have Starbucks until I don't know the mid 2000s here.
Oh yeah, we didn't either.
And like by then, I was used to drinking Quick Trip coffee, so I was going to get coffee. So I've just never gone to a Quick Trip. Like,
yeah,
not a Quick Trip. Never gone to a Starbucks. Like, I've just never had reason to.
Yeah, for the longest time, Starbucks was like, if your city has less than 1 million people, screw you.
Like, I've had Starbucks.
And then suddenly
coffee.
They changed their mind, and then they put in like 50 Starbucks all at once.
Right. Yeah.
Stupidest thing. Like
we got them all over the place all at once, and by then I was at least 30, so my patterns were already set, and they didn't involve going to Starbucks.
My very favorite was one of the places they decided to put in one of the first couple of Starbucks was in a like strip mall that is terrible to get in and out of, has awful parking in a spot that could not in any way, shape, or form have a drive-through. Across the road from the Barnes & Noble that had been serving Starbucks products for the past, 15 years.
Yeah.
The Barnes & Noble is still there. The Starbucks shut down recently.
Our first Starbucks was in an Albertsons.
I mean, also you do have Quick Trip. I didn't realize how magical Quick Trip was until I drove across the country.
It's great. It's an amazing place. Like nobody understands our attachment to Quick Trip.
It's much better than
you have
the
a
name
Quick
would make
Trip.
you think. Yeah, like it's not Buc-ee's or anything, but
no, but like it's
a reasonable place to go.
It has a similar religious affiliation with it though, because people will drive out of the way to go to a Quick Trip.
So for my drink of choice, I mean, definitely coffee in the morning with scones. For non-alcoholic, Reed's extra ginger beer, definitely as much real ginger beer as possible. And I think it goes pretty good with barbecue. And yeah, for alcoholic, I mean, I'm usually pretty simple, but if I'm being fancy, a dark and stormy. So more ginger beer.
Very good.
Ginger beer is good.
Do you have a preferred way of drinking your coffee or brewing your coffee?
I tend to do cold brew coffee most of the time at home because I have a little bit of a sensitivity to coffee if I brew it hot. But otherwise, if I am making it hot, I will make it in a Chemex.
Okay.
I guess that leaves me, doesn't it?
And me.
Oh no, go for it.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay. I like a lot of times I get the big old things of like oolong tea or lemon tea from the Japanese market. I love those. I do some coffee in the morning with a chocolate chip cookie, and that is the best way to start the day. I put a little bit of creamer in my coffee. I usually use like a caramel flavor. And if I'm going to have an alcoholic beverage, which I don't really do very often anymore, I like a good White Russian because I love Kahlua.
Nice. I haven't had one of those in forever.
I mostly remember you making them because a college roommate liked them.
Yeah. So if I'm 100% honest about what I drink the most / pair with the most, it's a glass of water and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which is like a solid 3 or 4 days a week. And probably I should stop doing that now that I say that out loud.
I think
There's nothing wrong with PB&J.
Yeah.
No, man.
Like I haven't quite gone all the way to a glass of water and toast, but I guess I'm not that far off. If it's like actually, so I guess part of it is I cut out soda and sugary drinks a few years ago. Like desperate attempt to cut down on my blood sugar level. And so I try not to drink very much that's not just like plain water. Although I do have a weakness for bubble tea.
Ooh, yeah, good.
Or chai, which I will eat with a breakfast sandwich. Otherwise, though, like especially if I'm cooking at home, I'm going to pair an aviation with carnitas or something, or more likely barbecue ribs. Just like everything I've made at home. Something I've probably made, and it's the one cocktail that I actually learned how to make. It is gin, creme de violette, lemon juice, and what's it called? Cherry liqueur. Usually like maraschino liqueur.
Yum.
Yeah, it's like the one alcoholic beverage that I actually make, and I've kind of gotten to the point where I never order it if I'm out. Though I heard, and that's usually a daiquiri if I'm out at this point, because I had a bartender suggest to me at one point that every bartender has their like the daiquiri is an incredibly simple drink, so it's probably going to be good because it's like incredibly baseline, but also basically every bartender has some kind of twist on it that they really like to show off. And it turns out this is extremely true.
That's good to know.
Like if you go and if you're looking for mixed drinks and you get a daiquiri and the daiquiri isn't good, just you done. But like if you're just like, hey, I'd like a daiquiri, whatever interesting twist the bartender wants to put on it, most of the time you're gonna get something probably semi bonkers that's awesome, or you're gonna get a drink that the bartender knows very, very, very well and is probably pretty refined. My bar hopping pro tip of the evening.
So now we're going to dive into the section of topics that I hinted at that someone must have thought we had a plan. So there was a question of what influenced us to start AggroChat. And
I mean, I thought we said this multiple times before.
We've said this before on the show. So once upon a time, almost every single night we would just all hang out on voice chat.
Yep.
Which is sadly kind of a casualty of, or at least for me, that I don't hang out on voice chat anywhere near as much as I used to. But we would get into lots of conversations about whatever happened to be going on in gaming at the time, and I thought, hey, we should just record this.
Well, I mean, we used to be sitting around waiting for raids to start.
Yep. Killing time, having conversations, or waiting on everyone to get online before something happened,
I mean, I know I was usually on even off raid nights just hanging out and chatting with people.
Yeah. When I was doing the painful long AQ gates grind, I spent a lot of time hanging out in voice chat in a desperate and ultimately futile attempt to retain what I could of my sanity.
Yeah, so I mean, like it was TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, Mumble, various things over the years that a large group of us used to hang out regularly, and it felt very podcasty at times. Like there were just conversations about whatever was going on.
Well, and podcasty in the like before podcasts were actually
Heavily
mean,
produced.
have
we've been
production
around long
values.
enough that we've been through 2 cycles of podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we used to be part of a podcasting network, and I'm pretty sure we're the only podcast that's still surviving. I guess there's still Battle Bards. That's still around, but everything else that was on that network is gone. So we're the lone survivors, and it's just because we've just continued to record.
Because we don't know any better.
Yeah.
Well-
At this point, like, the reality is, and this is kind of, I don't know, on some aspect maybe sad, but this is one night a week that we all hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
an excuse for us to all get together and talk to each other. I mean, that's
and-
honestly what this is these days.
And it's really a good use of that. Like,
Yeah, like
our
we're
lives
putting
have
it towards
gotten-
a focus, but
our lives have gotten busy. And
I mean, when this started, like, nobody had children yet, and
Yeah.
there were a lot of people that weren't married yet.
yep.
So like as things have shifted, more responsibilities have happened, and this entirety of this group, gathers far less often, and this is at least one night a week.
Yeah. Well, and
that we
also
do.
time zones have changed for some
Yeah.
folks, and that has definitely influenced the dynamic. So this is definitely one night where we can all agree to show up at the same time.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we used to all be like an hour apart, time zone wise, and now
I'll say when we
it's-
started, the entire West Coast contingent was on Eastern time.
Yeah, I was going to say
Yep.
fully half of the show have moved at least once, if not more than once, in like significantly during the course of the show.
Yes, when we started, I lived in Cleveland, and I have since moved to the East Coast and to the West Coast.
Yeah, like I've only moved significantly once, but I've moved actual homes like 5 times since the show began.
Ugh.
And I think we've continued to kind of add people as we started hanging out with folks regularly, and also to have backups in case people needed time off. And,
Mhm.
like that's been a big thing, and like, it kind of sucks when I can't be there because a lot of times we just take the night off because it's a hassle otherwise. But having as many people on the podcast as we do has really made it easier for folks to come and go. Like, somebody's at a convention or somebody needs to be on a work trip. It's not that big of a deal, and we can still theoretically keep a critical mass of 3-4 people and still make it sound like not just 2 people talking.
Yeah.
Anytime it's been 2 people talking, we just have it recorded because, like, I don't like. I did the Bell Folks stuff thing, and that was a different kind of experience. But in general, I don't usually like one-on-one podcasts.
Yeah, like we're not really an interview style
No.
or any kind of style, if I'm honest.
I mean,
We're rambly conversation
Well,
style.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's style.
the show is for the most part, hey, I'm excited about this thing.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about that thing. And then sometimes discussions happen as a result.
Yeah, like realistically, fully half the time, even if we're not recording, the people who are hanging out are just hanging out and chatting.
Yeah, exactly.
Gonna say, even when it's down to 2 people, there's usually something going on in this time slot. Like, I know there was one where Kodra and I played a Hollow Knight randomizer.
Yep,
And I know there was one where Bella and Grace streamed D3, I think.
probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so like the thing is like when you've done something for over 8 years at this point, and like it's been on a specific time slot every week, like it's kind of hard not to use the thing for some benefit in doing group content.
But like, yes, we kind of genuinely like each other, so we talk to each other, and you get to hear that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and the piece of this that no one ever sees is we have a very active Slack channel that we all talk on a regular basis, and it started off as just kind of a vehicle to plan and discuss things, and it's grown over time to, we have so many channels. At some point we should probably condense channels, but
We've tried that a few times.
We prune occasionally.
I think another big thing is the fact that we try and keep editing and production light on this.
Yeah.
I think that might be a severe understatement to some people's surprise.
Yeah, no, like it was very funny when I was asked to join a podcast of all of the TGN podcasters, and they're talking about all of the effort they do editing and how like much time they spend getting everything just right. It's like we hit record and then we hit stop record, and Bell has an algorithm.
Like I do a couple passes, like to truncate the silences and do some basic equalization, but that's it. Like,
which is also why you never hear if Bell breaks out laughing and you don't understand why. It's because somebody just paused for probably like 10 to 15 seconds at the intro just to mess with Bell.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It's usually Kodra.
It
used to be me.
I was gonna say that wasn't the thing I did. This time it was Thalen.
The whole thing started because occasionally we would start recording and not realize that not everybody was at their computer until somebody got called and they weren't actually there. And we just sort of sit around like, because it would be awkward if we were just like, well, we're not here. So we just like waited.
Well, and also there used to be some times when Kodra was on the toaster and it would just freeze up and Kodra would stop responding.
Oh yeah.
It's a bread maker now.
I was going to say bread maker has happened since then.
Yeah.
This is what you get when I'm the one still awake to name your computer.
Because I was like stress sleeping because it wasn't posting.
Yeah.
Yes, because someone, i.e. me, forgot to plug in the CPU.
Wait, so you're still on bread maker?
I'm still on bread maker. Although,
wow, that's impressive.
Wait. Am I still on bread maker?
Is this the bread maker of Theseus?
It's definitely the bread maker of Theseus.
I mean, I used to have the Ship of Theseus computer, and then, a couple years ago, I just bought a pre-built.
So some of us update our computers on the regular. Kodra updates his computer exclusively under duress.
When I need to.
I would go a step further than that.
Your definition of need is real.
Yeah.
Stress.
When there is literally no other option.
When the rest of us start threatening him.
I mean, the reason that Ash and I were around was because we literally got tired of Kodra dealing with of just like, oh, my computer's fine. And we flew out to his home to install a new computer.
I probably should get a new computer pretty soon.
That was the last
the prices
time he
are down
upgraded
finally.
his computer.
So. They are. You can actually buy graphics cards now.
It's true. For a while, it sucked building it.
Rumor is the 4000 series for NVIDIA is going to be real cheap because they maybe put their orders in during, the last boom of cryptocurrency.
I will say that there is a thing every time I build a computer where it's like I have a stressful moment and it is very traumatic for me. Like I will always remember it where nothing is working and I'm stressed out.
I've gotten a lot better at avoiding those since in the past 8 years.
Yeah, it's fair.
I think I've assembled 2-ish, really 3 computers since then. There's definitely one of those is a computer of absolutely Theseus.
So we covered a whole lot of a big topic during that whole sequence about someone had asked us what how we've managed to keep the podcast together, what motivates us, and I think we kind of just covered a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
The one that like this question really means well, but also I'm not sure we're responsible enough adults to give anyone advice about what advice we would give to someone starting a podcast.
Don't.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Only do it if you're enjoying yourself.
Don't
not start a podcast for money.
Yeah. No.
It's not a thing you want to do.
Do something that you're very passionate about and that you can talk about a lot.
I was going to say, if you're if you have a thing that you have to, that you're like, that people are tired of having to be around when you're talking about it all the time, it's a decent candidate.
I mean, I also would say that to give yourself room to pivot as well, because like at some point you're going to get tired of that thing
Yeah.
and maybe want to talk about something else.
I'm glad we're not just talking about MMOs.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think I've mentioned this, and certainly not on the show, but like, prior to me meeting my current partner and getting married, I would have conversations about, you know, games and stuff that I'm playing, and that was frequently a litmus test of, is this even going to work out a little bit? With one notable case in which somebody was like, "Oh, you have a standing thing on Saturday nights? Well, you'll need to move that." And I'm like, "Cool. Nice to meet you."
Oh man. So we actively harmed Tam's love life.
Actively saved it,
I'm
it
not
sounds
gonna-
like.
I'm not going to say
I mean,
that was
like-
I'm not
like
gonna say that harm
considering,
occurred,
like-
honestly.
Considering how things have worked out, yeah, no, like it was probably for the best, but still.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're kind of getting into gaming related things. And
Ooh, ask the Pokemon question. I want to laugh at it.
Okay, I can actually. I'll jump ahead to the Pokemon question. What is the favorite Gen 1 Pokemon of each of the crew? And then there's in parentheses, Gen 1 only, please. None of this newfangled Drifloons and such.
Right. I want to tell this person that Drifloon is 15 years old. So if that's newfangled, then you know. Yeah.
I mean, like,
Oof.
I will be honest. I am diehard Bulbasaur and always have been.
Yeah.
And that's
Bulbasaur.
fine.
Bulbasaur's great.
I also, my favorite Pokemon is one of the original 150s. It is Dragonite. My wife refers to it as Brianmon and says it looks like me. Yeah, I just love Dragonite. It's the best dragon ever, and they can't print them anymore because no other dragons make sense. It's the archetypical dragon.
I mean, for me, like Bulbasaur is definitely great, but also Diglett has a special place in my heart. I used to have a sand boa that I named Diglett. It was perfect.
Did you know there's a
That's awesome.
Sandaconda now?
To answer this person's actual question, Nidoking is pretty great, but also Swampert is just amazing. So they can deal with the fact that Pokemon after Gen 1 exist and have for 23 years.
I love Eevee. Eevee's my favorite.
Somebody came for me in my home because it is actually Drifloon.
Yes.
Like I'm a little tempted to just not even answer a Gen 1 Pokemon because how do you to come for me like that?
You feel very called out.
I'm called out here. That being said, it's probably Jigglypuff. Like if I'm forced to choose Gen 1, it's Jigglypuff. Because how can you not like it's like one of the only Pokemon that I would actually like to have in real life.
I don't know. Jigglypuff can get angry. I've watched that show.
Are you talking about Detective Pikachu?
No, I'm talking the original cartoon when Jigglypuff would put people to sleep and then get mad and draw in their face with a marker.
He would get mad that people weren't listening to its singing because they fell asleep. So it would draw on everybody's faces with marker.
Yep.
That was a major part of the first series.
Yeah, it was a running gag.
I mean, sounds like a reasonable trade-off for being able
Won't
to
light your house on fire.
Well, A, won't light my house on fire, but also like I have insomnia sometimes. That sounds great.
I mean, that does sound like, yeah, a remarkably useful Pokemon power to have access to.
I'll just make sure I keep washable markers around.
I mean, I'll be honest, like basically any of the Cutemon, the little baby, like unevolved Cutemon, like I like them all. But Bulbasaur will always be my favorite.
I mean, I've also been on a bit of a Digimon kick lately, but that's a separate thing.
I mean, I did consider answering Greymon.
Oh my god, that meme is so good. Name 10 Digimon. Greymon.
Yep.
So, did everyone name their favorites? I think we did.
I think so.
Um,
If we thought about this, we would be like doing this in a set order.
yeah, no, I mean,
We're still us.
That's completely counter to how we've done everything else so far.
It's true.
I
mean-
yeah. Why ruin a good thing now?
the only constant is Ash has to be the final person to say goodbye.
Yeah.
So this one is, what video game or games do we think we've talked the most about on AggroChat?
Should we exclude WoW?
I mean, I think we've actually talked about Final Fantasy XIV more than we've talked about WoW.
Oh, fair.
That might be at this point. I
Maybe.
don't
That
know.
might be true.
Yeah, like I think at this point we have actually, because you think about it, like in 2014 when we started doing this, we had just
We still talked about WoW a lot, even
Yeah.
though many of us were at the tail end of playing it at that
right,
point.
but like we also began the renaissance of our return trip to Final Fantasy XIV.
The
Like,
next year, mostly.
no, 2013 was when it came out. By 2014, we had already set out for a little bit and decided to come back.
Ah, yeah, December
So-
of that year.
Yeah.
WoW is still the frame of reference. I feel like we bring it up in comparison to
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, because that's mostly where the majority of us met.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a common touch point for us and most of our listeners.
I mean, I feel like it depends on what is really active too. Because like we will have periods where we talk about a thing a lot, and then it will fade out of the consciousness until we have a revival of the thing. Like we've talked a lot about Guild Wars 2. There was a whole period of time where we talked about Elder Scrolls Online a ton.
Rift
Rift
for a good
uh,
for a hot minute there. Wildstar, like whatever we tend to be playing. Like
yeah, whatever is the thing that tends to be like a focus for a bunch of us at once, we will talk about it a lot. But
I
you
think
know,
FF14 has had the most of those.
mhm.
right.
Guild Wars 2 has had a decent chunk, but I still think that's way lower.
I mean, in particular, FF14 has had our like shows dedicated entirely to it.
It's one of the few that we all actively play together on a quasi-regular basis, and by
Mhm.
that I mean when there's new content.
Yeah, I mean it's a thing that we all tend to be happy to return to when there's new content.
hmm
Like spoilers over the next few weeks, you're probably going to hear a lot about Path of Exile.
Yup.
It's true.
Get ready.
It's true.
It's true.
But I also know, like, related back to 14, once 6.2 comes out, I will probably start poking my head back in that again.
That's
It's
next
islands.
week.
I am curious of the two platformers I play a lot, what we think I've talked about more between Celeste or Hollow Knight.
I would also nominate the letter V 6 times. You have talked a lot
right,
about the letter V 6
Yeah.
times.
That's honestly probably what I would say. Yeah.
Like, you were on a definite kick of V 6 times for a really long time.
I'd say probably Hollow Knight, though.
Yeah.
While you talk about Celeste a lot and you stream it now, Hollow Knight came out in a while ago.
Yep, and I talked about it a lot.
It's like it's a good game or something.
Well, and more than just you talked about it too, regularly brought up. I mean, everybody kind of played through it at one point. Trying to think of other things that we have talked a lot about that weren't necessarily an online live service type game.
I mean, anything by Supergiant.
Yeah, basically
Yeah.
the whenever a Supergiant game releases, we all talk about that.
One day they might make one that doesn't just consume us utterly when it comes out, and boy, I hope that never
They're
actually
so
happens.
good. Like, I didn't like soccer, but I still was engrossed by it for a while.
Yep, even the game
Pirate, yeah.
that was a sports ball game was something that I could not stop playing.
Boy, that one probably most successfully hit me in the feels.
It was a great story. Like that, I didn't enjoy the gameplay at all, but I kept playing for the.
But the game they made after that one was Hades.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hades is freaking amazing. Though it does make me wonder if and when we're going to get a new game, because like the overwhelming amount of support that they've had for Hades has had probably a longer tail than most of their games do. Like the game kind of just releases and then they're working on the next game, and Hades has had a lot of post updates.
Has it? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, quite a bit.
It got a decent chunk. I think they haven't done anything for it in a while, though.
Yeah. Okay, if we had the opportunity to bring on a special guest that was a famous person, who would we want to bring on?
Why would we do that?
I like that is so not us, but like also, I get it.
I do sort of get why the question was asked,
Yeah.
but that's the one I looked at on the list, and I'm like, I can't think of anybody. Why would I do this?
Here's the thing: is like I would love to say somebody like LeVar Burton, but like he would be so phenomenally uninterested in anything that we do that it wouldn't make sense for him to ever appear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if I really wanted to, like, there's a slew of people that are somewhat well known in gaming that I could probably get to guest on this thing, but like we've never really been a guest host type podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have guest hosts, but they're just characters from the rogues gallery of our friends.
Yeah, it's mostly just like people that we know. I mean, so it does say no matter how unrealistic that may be. So I'm going to put a vote in for Jim Henson because I want to talk to Jim Henson.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'm changing
That'd
mine
be
to Fred
great.
Rogers. I want Fred Rogers to be proud of us.
Like actual people that are still with us. Like I was thinking about it and I'd settled on Chris Hemsworth. Seems like he would
that'd
just
be funny.
a cool dude to talk to.
Yeah, that'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Because it was like, who can I think of that's famous that like would have any interest whatsoever in our conversation?
Yeah,
Like,
who would
I
just
mean,
be
Vin
chilling
Diesel
on
is a
it.
giant nerd, and that might be kind of fun.
That would
that
be
was-
Oh
funny.
yeah.
That was
My-
my thought.
I mean,
My-
thinking of other people who at least play video games, I think I would say Representative Ocasio-Cortez.
That would be
Yeah.
fun. Like
Yeah.
again, I don't think you would be interested in it. But
No,
no.
but we're
We're flexible.
daydreaming here. That would be fun.
Yeah, for me it would be like Vin Diesel or Chris Hemsworth, also both very funny. Mark Hamill, because I feel like he'd go with it.
Yeah.
Will Wheaton for the same reason. Or like honestly, if I could have one famous person, it would be my my like game dev idol, Jane McGonigal.
I tell you who I think would be a hoot would to have Gail Simone.
Well, that would be
Oh wow, yeah.
I would love to.
She would also be
I would be very excited to be trolled by Gail Simone
I know,
in real
like-
life.
She's the best troll ever. Like,
the funny thing is that's very specifically Twitter. That like I have met her, and it's just like you just have a lovely conversation with her.
yeah, no, but like the constant trolling is so delightful on
It
Twitter.
is.
It's so good.
She is the queen of Twitter. It's very impressive.
My absolute nonsense answer. I was like, the first thing that popped in my head that was ridiculous was like Yoshi P.
That'd be cool.
Oh yeah.
That'd be cool, yeah.
That's
But
definitely
also,
a good one.
Yeah, Mark Hamill was like one of my other picks because he's amazing.
Oh, and it did another possibility that occurred to me, like going back into the like history of gaming. Steve Jackson.
Oh yeah.
I think he would be real interesting to talk to.
Yeah, like for me, it would probably be a dev of something I think is cool. So like Maddie Thorson would be sweet.
Be fun.
But also, like having a celebrity on would mean we'd have to actually like plan things.
Plan
and
things.
stuff,
Ooh.
Right. Yeah. No. Like
and
no.
probably actually edit the show.
No
What
one
would that
wants to
even
just
look like?
randomly show up
Oh, no.
and join in the nonsense conversation.
Oh, that doesn't sound worth it.
Like I mean, if you're interested in that, and you're any of the people we named, please feel free. But I know you're not listening out there, so
Yeah.
I don't live in a world where I would ever imagine that LeVar Burton would be listening to the podcast.
Chris Hemsworth, call me.
That would be deeply surreal.
It really would.
Okay. This one was also a weird one, and like I don't even know how to answer it. What was our favorite episode of AggroChat, and what was our least favorite episode of AggroChat?
I have no idea. Least
Yeah.
favorite episode. Wow.
Yeah, me either. Like Like, I could say probably my favorite episodes that we've done are the big Final Fantasy 14 expansion patch spoiler shows that we
Yeah,
do
that's
every
probably
so
what I would go
often.
to. Yeah.
I mean, thinking that I remember episodes of the podcast is silly.
There's 400 of them. There's
Yeah.
no freaking way.
Like, and
I edit
But
them and I don't
also-
remember them.
Do not go back and listen to our episode number 1.
It's real bad. Like, I've been re-releasing them slowly over time. They're not good. They're not good. Like,
I actually did that. I actually did that not that long ago. It's not that
It's
bad.
fine, but like, yeah, no, don't. We do have some diehards that have gone back and started from the beginning. And I'm sorry for your life choices. That's
I mean, at some point, somebody asked me, "Hey, do you want to be on this podcast?" And I was like, "Oh crap! I guess I better go back and listen to some of these episodes so I know what I'm getting into." And I think that's the last time I listened to any of the early episodes.
Yeah, like I listened to the episodes as they were coming out, like up to the point that I started being on the podcast. And
Yep.
I don't listen to episodes that I'm in. Like that would be
Same.
deeply weird.
Same.
I've gotten numb to the effect of listening to my own voice. That's a side effect of something you just have to get over for editing it.
It's an
So-
impressive skill.
So if I had to pick a worst episode, though, I don't know if it was bad, but I just kind of felt bad. Would be Citizens of Earth.
That's what
Our very first game of the month.
So, like, I
We
don't
were all
know that
just
the
like,
show itself was so bad, but God, that game was bad.
That game
Yeah.
was
It's not a good-
mediocre.
That game was
So
mediocre.
we had no good things to say about
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it wasn't bad enough to like have interesting things to talk about, and it wasn't good. So it just yeah.
And I
That's-
picked it. Like, that was my pick, I think.
Well,
We
No,
all
that was,
kinda
that was
picked it.
before we
Yeah.
realized we should have individual people pick.
Yeah.
That was group consensus because nobody objected to it, and that's why we
Well,
changed
like-
up how we did that.
We all wanted a new Earthbound, and we were
Yeah.
hoping this game was going to be a new Earthbound, and
Yeah,
it was
it seemed-
not.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, it seemed like it should be, but no.
Yeah, that was when we learned it's better to have at least one person really interested in the game than to have everyone kind of okay with the game.
But other than that, I can't think of another show that I just didn't like or was uncomfortable while recording or anything like that.
My least favorite episode is whichever one I said the stupidest thing.
A very good pick.
But I'll never go back and listen to myself say it again, so it's a mystery.
I do have a episode that I strongly remember, and I was very interested in it, which is the episode in which I talk about the secret society I got inducted into.
I think I have blanked this from my memory.
Oh, this is how I met everyone.
Yes, that.
When I was playing World of Warcraft, I had just hit 60. I really didn't
Oh, okay.
know anyone, but there were some people in Ironforge asking to put together a stealth run of Lower Blackrock Spire, and I was like, well, I'm a rogue. That sounds like it could be fun. And it was really fun. And then after that, I got inducted into a secret society of rogues and druids. And that was sort of how I met everyone. Because I
I know-
went to...
I know Thalen and I mostly met because we were dwarf hunters.
Yeah. Well, and I was originally playing WoW with some folks that I went to school with that ended up raiding with you. And you slowly, one by one, pulled them all out of our guild until it was just me left in my guild. And then they convinced me to finally pull the trigger and join.
Elle's magical fan.
Yep.
My favorite episodes are always the ones where we're either all talking about the same thing and like having all of our different takes on the same thing, or like there's a topic that just resonates with everybody and we kind of go down a rabbit hole on it.
Yeah, I really enjoy our Game of the Year shows, although they tend to be incredibly long.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's just fun to kind of try to pull together a list, and then everyone gets to be excited about the games that they really liked over the past
Mhm.
year, and we can kind of tally up which ones we all really liked, which is kind of fun.
What's great
Yeah.
about it is like a lot of times, like we had our 3 picks, but there's usually like half dozen other games on the list that we're also sort of excited about that we didn't pick because we had to whittle our picks down. So we still have the ability to talk about that game, even though it wasn't one of our picks.
And sometimes those picks are strategic because,
Yep.
well, I know this person's going to pick this one, and I still want to talk about it, but I'm going to pick these other 2.
Yep.
I mean, there's a reason why it's a double show. Okay, this is another one that was sort of like it's an interesting thought experiment, but I have no idea how we would ever figure this out. How many games cumulatively have we played since 2015?
More than 5.
Yes.
Like
Less than 1,000.
I went back through and like I have my spreadsheet of games and it's not updated for this year, so there's probably some that are missing. But like, so I literally have a log of games I played and what months I played them in going back to 2012. So it's over 300 games since we started the podcast that I've played.
Is it 2015? No, it's since the podcast
2014.
started.
2014. Yeah, I think I wrote down 2015, but 2014. April of 2014, I think, is when we started.
Yep.
But yeah,
8 years ago.
Yep.
So yeah, like I mean, like for me alone, it's been well over 300. It's like 326, something like that.
I don't know if my number is that high.
I know mine isn't. But also, like, if they're asking cumulatively, like, all of us put together, like...
It's going to be a large number.
Well, I mean, I haven't
guess
played many games that Bell hasn't.
Yeah.
It's fair. I'm still guessing over 1,000.
Probably. Yeah, because there's a lot of little titles that folks will dip their toes in, even for a little bit.
I mean, all of the mobile games that I don't even remember that I played here and there.
No, like this, my list is bad about keeping track of that because, like, I don't have a great way of logging that. So, unless it was something like Dragalia Lost that I played a lot of, I don't even put it on the list.
Oh,
but
man.
I'm forever downloading random little games and poking my head in.
Playing games is literally my job. So, like, it's a very large number.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's just that I've poked my head in for an hour or two, like it's a lot of games. And if it is a thing that is in the zeitgeist, chances are I either played it or one of us has played it.
If it is a board game implemented on Board Game Arena, does that count? What is a video game?
It's a game. Sure, yes.
Because I've played a lot of games once on Board Game Arena.
I mean, there's also the bit where we've played a number of board games in real life.
It's true.
Is Black Rose Wars common or popular? Not really. Kind of fun though.
So I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit to blend in another question because somebody asked what our favorite adaptation of a tabletop game to video game form was.
I feel like that's a short list of possibilities.
Yeah,
I was thinking that.
I narrowed it down to 2. For me, it's either Planescape Torment or Shadowrun Dragonfall.
Oh, if you were including games of that style, then there's a bunch more.
Yeah, no, like that's.
But I was thinking like
in play. They said tabletop or RPG to video game form.
Ah, okay.
I mean, I'm still gonna agree with Thalen, and I think that the Shadowrun like Returns, Dragonfall, Hong Kong are not just very good, but starkly better than actual Shadowrun.
Yup.
Strongly agree.
And I desperately want some more of that.
Yeah. Probably I'm just gonna go with that one. I was gonna be obstinate and choose like Citizen Sleeper.
I was about to
purest technicality.
It is not quite forged in the dark, but it pretty freaking close.
Does Disco Elysium count?
Yeah,
like that's the problem is like those games could not exist were it not for pen and paper role playing.
So my actual answer was going to be Gloomhaven because I thought I was narrowly interpreting that question.
So like if we're talking traditional tabletop game, probably my favorite video game based on a board game is Carcassonne. I still play that a lot.
Is there a good implementation of Carcassonne?
The one I tend to play the most often is on mobile, just on phone. It's fine. It's got it has a lot of the optional rule sets in it as well. So, and you can weed out which ones you want to play. So I tend to play just kind of the straight one, maybe with rivers included. But I largely play it as a solitaire game because they'll put you up against 3 computer players. Although I mean it does support full online play if you really want it. But I will never forget getting trash talked while playing it on Xbox Live. That's the weirdest experience of my life.
Deeply weird.
That sounds terrible. Like that sounds. I don't want to play on Xbox Live.
Yeah,
No, you
of
don't.
all the games to ever trash talk someone over, that is maybe the geekiest game ever to trash talk someone over.
There was also Uno, but yeah, I think I'm with you there.
It was like stuff like, you're never going to finish that road.
Wow.
Stop wasting my time.
I am both amused and horrified.
It was like I was laughing so loud that I couldn't get mad. It was the weirdest experience. That just happened. It was like when I first got my Xbox 360 and was, first playing around with Xbox Live Arcade, and I was like, oh, hey, Carcassonne's on here. I love this game. And then I forgot to turn it on offline only.
Whoops.
So we've also had a request that we need to apparently devote an episode just to talking about our pets.
I mean, I don't have any pets. I have a small child. It's like having a pet.
Cough.
I mean, sure, I can talk about my cat who wakes me up at 6 a.m. on the weekends because his dry food dish is empty. And he jumps on my pillow and screams in my ear.
Oh, man.
It's great.
Oh, I have one of those.
See,
I
like
am
I said,
going
having
through
a small
that.
child is a lot like having a pet.
I'm going through that right now with Gracie, our kitten, because last night I was on the couch after I went downstairs from hanging out on TeamSpeak and playing Path of Exile, and I needed a break from TeamSpeak for a bit, so I wasn't wearing headphones and talking. But apparently at 10:30, she came out to the living room and screamed at me because she wanted me to go to bed. And then when I got to the bedroom, she screamed at me because I wasn't laying in the correct position because she wanted to lay on my legs. And she could have laid on my legs out in the living room. But no, she wanted to lay on my legs in the bed.
Yeah,
Yep.
that wouldn't have been the correct location. Wouldn't have been the proper spot.
Congratulations. You have a loud cat now.
I know, like
It's just going to keep getting louder. So I
Grace
had a
has been
loud kitten, and now it's a loud cat.
Grace has been commiserating. It's like, yeah, that sounds like Neutrino.
Yeah. Yeah, I have 2 cats, and they're locked out of the room most of the time when I'm recording the podcast because about towards the end of when we're recording usually is about when we feed them in the evening, and they will just both be in here hollering and getting on my lap and yelling at me. So they're just not allowed.
Yeah, my cat likes to help me when I'm playing Final Fantasy 14, usually on raid nights, and he likes to murder me. It's great. My raid members love it. It's great.
My cat likes to sit under my desk, and occasionally my feet go under my desk, and that is apparently a violation of her space.
Yes, absolutely.
That
Didn't
was
you
not
know?
the agreement.
And so I have at one point had my cat sink her teeth right into my feet while I was on a call, and that was very awkward.
Oh no.
But she's very cute, and she likes food. That's her big thing. She's very food motivated cat.
I have 2 surprisingly attention motivated cats. Like one who just wants to be pet and get tummy rubs, and it's amazing. It's magical. It never turns into the trap with claws and teeth. And one that just wants you to pay attention to him
Yeah.
all the time. Forever.
Yeah, our cats are pretty chill. Like I mean, I pick on my one for like waking me up in the night and like, murdering me in video games. But he's also very sweet and will sit on the window shelf that I have set up and purr at me while I'm working and stuff. So our cats are Jake and Elwood, and they are good boys.
Nice.
I inherited my dad's allergy to cats and was attacked by a dog when I was like 2. So I really haven't been a pets person for most of my life. I have a dog that is kind of the last stage in getting over dog phobia because she is like the least threatening creature possible. And she's almost 11 now.
Wow. I remember when you got River. So that doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
Yeah, she's River because I am unable to miss a good pun. And I liked Firefly somewhat more than Doctor Who.
So another question that I find almost impossible to quantify is there's a question asking how different our play styles are.
Very.
Very. Like,
Remarkably.
exceedingly different.
I mean, who?
like,
Also,
like which two of us?
right? Like me and Kodra, super different. Me and Belle, maybe not as different. But also, I mean, play style or play preference, because like Belle and I get along and love the same kind of games, but boy, do we not play the same kind of characters
At all.
Yeah. And like Kodra and I play surprisingly similar games in radically different ways.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like there's enough commonality that any two of us, it is not unusual that we will be playing the same game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it is unlikely that we are playing anything close to the same thing. Like I like big smashy tanky, like very aggressive things, but I'm also playing a caster currently, so I don't know. Stuff's weird sometimes.
I think I like to go fast. I think,
Which is funny because you're also one of the more strategic thinkers.
You like competition.
Oh, I do like competition.
I do not like competition.
No, I like to do my own thing and will very frequently do things that are suboptimal if they are funny.
Yeah.
Like making maps that have nothing but crabs on them.
Yes.
I'm not sure
I'm not sure that's
understand.
suboptimal.
But it is funny.
It was hilarious.
The intersection between the intersection between optimal and fun is really where I try to live. Like,
Yeah.
I can play things competitively, I just don't enjoy it. And so, but I also do analyze the games I play, and I do like put enough thought into it that I try to succeed. I just also can't resist doing the funny thing, or the thing that's like more fun for my friends who are also playing, or makes for a more interesting experience or whatever. People have probably heard me rant about games where the optimal choice is the most boring one.
I have a bad habit of liking to play online games, but play them solo.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah.
I like having other people around, but I'm also often off doing my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
In invisible mode.
Yes. And please, game
Like, no
designers,
other
stop
people are
shaming me
around.
for being in invisible mode. So, like, I would say, like, there's probably more difference in our methods than there is the same, but the same token, there's enough the same that, again, any two of us or any three of us or any four of us can figure out something of commonality in a game. That was kind of a hard question to accurately answer. So hopefully whoever put it in is fine with the answer.
I think
they're going to have to be.
Yeah, right. I do think that there's like one thing that I know I do is I go out of my way to play games I think I might not like to see if they surprise me. But that's really like half of that is career reasons more than habit.
Yeah, I have the bad habit of trying to set up every game to the same.
As a game designer, this hurts me deeply in my soul.
It goes in the square hole.
Also hurts me deeply in my soul.
Okay. What single game or game series would you like to see get a modern remake? And would it be a faithful remake with the original mechanics or a reboot?
Commander King.
So after
Beyond Good and
the
Evil.
FF7 thing, I don't want you to make normal remakes anymore. Just don't bother. Make something new that is faithful to the original in spirit.
Yeah, I mean, once upon a time, I would have said Final Fantasy VII, and then it happened, and so I don't really have anything. I think that my answer is mostly just trolling as many people as possible, and I'm going to say The Legend of Zelda.
Why you gotta choose violence? I have an answer, and when I say the answer, it won't surprise any of you. I want a new Hellgate London game.
Yeah.
I want it either to go down a path of being like a looter shooter along the lines of Outriders, or I would be fine with it being an isometric ARPG type experience. But like either one works for me. I just want that game to actually live up to its potential.
You know, I have a real answer that's not a troll answer. Guild Wars 1.
That's fair.
I mean, the other troll answer is World of Warcraft.
They did that. They actually did that. It's called WoW Classic. It was pretty fun.
Ouch.
I mean, I'm not trolling when I say I would love to see a Commander Keen reboot, and I don't care how faithful it is to like the gameplay mechanics or anything like that. But I just want more Commander Keen. I liked that character in that
I would
story.
love to see a Commander Keen game that is something loosely along the lines of a style of game like Ratchet and Clank.
Sure.
I think that would be great. I think it would be.
I want Commander Keen in this. I want Commander Keen in the style of Keen's daughter with in the greater Wolfenstein continuity.
Yeah. I mean,
although I have to say Youngblood was a horrible game.
I haven't played it yet, but
it's not good. It is just not good.
I would really like I would like the game that we saw, like even the like weird mobile game. I was excited for it. More Commander Keen.
Just anything with Commander Keen.
So the game I would like to see updated, it's way back in the olden times. There was a game called Mail Order Monsters.
Oh,
and it was a game where you could basically you bought a monster and then you could like modify it with all sorts of like you could buy like a brontosaurus and like put gills and tentacles and fangs on your brontosaurus and give it a grenade launcher and then like have fights with it against other players or against the computer, and like your monster would like could be upgraded as you won fights. You like saved your monster on a floppy disk. You'd like, and it was really fun. It was also, for the Commodore 64 in the mid 80s. I would love to see like a modern version of this with the same kind of goofy sense of humor and just, Frankensteining monsters together and making them fight.
It's a very different kind of game, but that description reminds me of Impossible Creatures. In all seriousness, I would love to see Legend of Dragoon, a more modern take on that game.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
Oh, also Dark Cloud.
I mean, I was not trolling.
The game was good
when
and
I
had no
said
right to be.
Beyond Good and Evil.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh man.
Really
Yes.
would like to see a modern version of that.
I mean, one has been supposedly in the works for a while, but
Sure. But I'd really like to see it.
I would like to see it.
My pick would probably be Xenogears.
Oh, that's yeah.
I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise, but yeah, just I think a revamped or updated version of the combat with like with the gears and of course like with just the people and stuff would be really cool. Plus some really, really cool stuff they could do with some of the different sci-fi environments and stuff now, or sci-fantasy. Just I think it would be really neat.
I'm quite frankly surprised if there's nobody currently working on that.
Yeah.
There's a
I mean, I
bunch
guess
of
you have to finish
games-
Xenoblade 3 DLC first, but still.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope somebody's working on that.
There's a whole slew of games that you kind of get the feeling they couldn't tell the story that they maybe wanted to because technology wasn't quite where it is today.
Yeah.
You like Witcher 1, for example. I would love to play through that, but like that game is such a mess. I could never suffer through.
My incredibly controversial take on this one is Final Fantasy, where the game they wanted to make was not technologically possible, but the game they did make wound up being its own genre that people liked, even though it wasn't what they actually wanted to make.
Yeah, and we've been seeing them move closer and closer to the thing they probably actually wanted to make, and it wasn't turn-based. Okay, this one is probably going to get interesting. What has been the biggest disappointment in gaming for you since the start of the podcast?
VR.
Makes sense?
Like truly, and it's definitely like improving, but it feels like we've been through a number of abortive starts with VR, and the next generation is not looking to be very exciting because it's all tied up in metaverse.
That's not the next generation. Facebook has VR and they aren't doing much with it, and this attempt is doing even worse. That's not where this is going. On a somewhat related note, there's definitely a bit of a recency bias here, but the whole crypto blockchain thing.
Yeah.
Yes. Like I'm having trouble thinking of something else that like disappoints me is a mild way to put it, more than that.
I mean, I'm not sure it disappoints me because I didn't have any sort of hopes for it in the
It disappoints
first
me that
place.
people continue to think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yes,
there's
that
Its
part, yeah.
existence- Its
Yeah.
existence disappoints me.
Yeah. Okay, agreed.
Yeah, it was never going to be a good thing.
Oh, I need another answer because there's one that feels very relevant since I started. I remember when I started this. Gamergate. Gamergate's the
God.
most disappointing thing in video games
Yes.
ever.
And everything that
that was going to be my answer, Kodra.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's my answer.
Yeah. Like there's nothing worse than that.
Nope.
I mean,
Like we are still dealing with the repercussions of that.
Yep.
And
It was an event that like very fresh during the because that happened in 2015.
Yep.
And so many voices were silenced during that event. Like there's a lot of people that stopped blogging at that time and stopped talking about games publicly at that time and still haven't really returned.
Yeah, we've lost so many voices in games, in comics, and in science fiction and fantasy literature to that same group each time. And it's awful.
It was the first time I got a personalized death threat.
It's the only time I've ever been denial of service.
Oh wow, that did happen, didn't it?
It did. It absolutely did. I got DDoS'd for a few days.
I think what makes that the most disappointing to me is it was perpetrated by a bunch of people who you'd think would know better.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh hey, you can look, it's a combination of pattern recognition and people going through the same bad stuff that many of us once did. And yet people chose to continue the cycle rather than end it.
I think the thing that scared me about some of the folks involved is in an alternate reality, I could have gotten caught up into that sort of thing. Like it is not unheard of that like had my life gone slightly different that I could have gotten caught up in being on the wrong side of history with Gamergate.
Yeah, like I don't want to think about like what could have led to me being that much of a different person, but like
That's definitely been my take, at least with regards to crypto, because I distinctly remember when crypto first came out thinking it sounded really cool.
Yeah. Like, oh, Bitcoin, that's neat. I'll mine some Bitcoin. Oh, these like, oh, no. And it just gets worse and worse. And just seeing like people whose work I used to really like and respect, like reveal themselves to be just totally awful
Oh
people.
yeah.
Well, and there's
And
just
like,
been so many events that have spawned from it. The whole sad puppies thing.
like yeah, Comicsgate and Sad Puppies both like same thing. Like Comicsgate in particular, because I read a lot of comics. I own comics by people who I would in no way, shape, or form ever buy a comic that person was involved in nowadays. On the bright, at least with Sad Puppies, like none of the people who were in the Sad Puppies were anybody that like I wanted to read any of their stuff anyway. But that was
Well,
part of the problem from their point of view.
and what cracked me up about that whole situation is how wildly ineffective it was.
Yeah, they wrecked the Hugos once. Is it sucked. It sucked for the people who would have been nominated that year, and that's
But it kind of galvanized a whole guard to keep it from happening again.
yeah, that's about all that they actually managed to do. And like nowadays, most of the people that were involved in that, like you never hear about them.
They put Chuck Tingle on the map.
It did put Chuck Tingle on the map. That's positive.
Similar story with J.K. Rowling and everything Harry Potter related.
God.
Was a big fan of Harry Potter.
I would probably, sometime within the next couple of years, be like reading Harry Potter to my kid. We're going through the Oz books right now in comic book form, and he loves them. I will not be reading him Harry Potter. We'll go with the Young Wizards instead, because Diane Duane is a good person.
So to take a step back from some of the deeper things, I know this is something we've talked about on the show before, but kind of a disappointment. And this isn't since the podcast necessarily happened, but it's been a continued trend. Is right or wrong, World of Warcraft set in folks' minds what an MMO should be, and as a result, we haven't really had any of the weird, interesting fringe MMOs in a really long time.
This was exactly where I was going to go as well. Like my big like actual in games and development thereof versus fandom and parallel stuff is like, I think I even talked about it on the show that there was going to be either MMOs were going to learn from single player games, or single player games were going to learn from MMOs. And I was really hoping that it was going to be MMOs learning from single player games and bringing that whole audience in, but it was not.
Yeah, and now basically every single player game has some sort of an MMO aspect.
Yeah, it's like everything is a live service game, and the focus is on engagement and retention, not about providing experiences and places for people to be and hang out and social spaces and so forth. And I'm sad that that's the direction, because I feel like, I mean, obvious biases aside, I think that there is a lot of value in having a social space that you can hang out with people in, that isn't where every interaction isn't a competition, where everything isn't a presented, like a place where you can hang out with people and get to know people, not either compete with them or try to optimize.
Yeah. I mean, like that's an intersection of two problems that happened at the same time, of MMO being a solved problem post World of Warcraft, and everything trying to be esportsified, because everything has to be competitive in some way.
Yeah, I mean, once upon a time, I would spend hours hanging out in, waiting for sunrise in Kithakor, and I would meet people and talk to them, because there wasn't there wasn't an optimal way that I wasn't playing where talking was wasting people's time. But like if you hop into a run in WoW or FF14 and you like try to strike up a conversation with people, like people get mad because you're actively wasting their time. And you're certainly not going to have that kind of thing in a PvP game either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that forced downtime, like that was when you talked to people, and
it was an ethos. It was an ethos in the game. like the pacing of the game was such that you could get to know people.
Yep.
It was also a simpler time. There was a time when I played MMOs and I wanted to meet strangers.
Yeah.
And now I mostly don't.
I mean, and that's directly connected back to things like Gamergate
Yep.
and the
Yeah.
toxification of the community.
Yeah, because games aren't, because like these live service games aren't really made to be a like they're not really made to be a social space. They're made to be a like user engagement space. You
They
don't
don't
have
really do anything to nurture positive interaction.
Yeah, there's exactly. And so the end result is like, well, you know, you build these things to get people in conflict with each other because that's engagement as fast as possible. Versus like and that focus breeds toxicity because either that person is not, because either you or the other person are not carrying their weight and therefore you get annoyed with them, and so the experience with a new unknown person is more likely to be negative, or that person represents something in the way of you being or doing whatever it is you're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think a prime example for me is the difference in which I view a player when I'm roaming around in New World versus when I'm roaming around in Guild Wars 2, because I see another player and they're actively in competition for the limited resources I'm trying to get. Whereas in an environment like GW2 where, you know, everybody has their own instance of resources, there's not the feeling that like they're actively in my way or going to steal something from me. Yeah. And I also kind of wonder how much of this is also that the core demographic that grew up with MMOs has aged and changed.
I do think that there is a problem where the social space of games are discords and not the game itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you don't need to put a social space in. People will just stand up a Discord for you.
Well, I've even seen that recently, and that games no longer have forums; they have discords.
Yep.
They're official supported discords, not, you know, forums on the website.
Yep. But
and
like
all of that conversation will one day just, you know, vanish.
Yep.
Like forums can at least be archived. Yeah. Let me tell you how much it like turns me off a game if I go to like look for information about the game and it's all join our Discord. No, I won't. Stop it.
Okay, in a more positive note, what has been our favorite piece of non-gaming media since the start of the podcast?
Oh, good Lord.
The start of the podcast?
You're asking me to go back 8 years and remember what my favorite piece of non-gaming media is.
Yeah.
I mean, again, recency bias, but Sandman's really good.
Hey, I gotta go with She-Ra.
She-Ra is fantastic. It's true. Bluey's amazing.
Bluey is really good.
Steven Universe.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah,
say
like-
Steven Universe.
I was hoping somebody would mention Steven Universe, because, like, for me, like, the ones that really stand out are She-Ra and Steven Universe.
The Owl House. If you haven't seen the Owl House, you should see the Owl House. It's what I'm going to substitute Harry Potter for.
Yeah, on the bright side, it's not on HBO Max, so you can still watch it.
Yeah.
Yay.
It's on Disney, though, and they canceled it because it was probably way too queer.
Yeah, but at least they didn't throw the whole thing into the memory hole like Infinity Train.
I'm just going to point out that Zootopia came out between the start of the podcast and now.
Yeah.
That was a good movie.
I feel like they could have done more with that. Like, I'm surprised there isn't more Zootopia.
I am shocked that they didn't, like, I guess maybe this just isn't a thing Disney does anymore, but for a while they were making series out of every movie they had. And like
they had, I think, a series planned for this, and then events made it not a great idea to continue.
Oh, that's not good.
I must have missed this event.
I clearly did too.
I mean, maybe not a great time to make a show where one of the main characters is a police officer.
Is a police officer, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have
That's
seen
true.
I have seen Zootopia is propaganda think pieces.
Encanto is fantastic. And I keep hoping that they'll maybe like do some shorts. Like, I don't think it needs a sequel, but I think like a couple of shorts would be good.
If we're doing Disney, I have to vote for Moana.
That was the other thing I was thinking about saying. Yeah,
Moana is very good.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, Mandalorian, mostly because it is non-core Star Wars. Like, it's
Yeah.
a story that's not involving. Well, okay, that's not entirely true, but you know,
You get yeah. It's at least going into some of the other areas of Star Wars that tend to get ignored. Like I still want like The Sopranos, but Star Wars. Just like something on like Nalhutta or the
yep, that would be amazing.
the shady parts of Corellia.
I mean, we did get the best Star Wars movie ever, Episode 8.
Yeah.
Definitely not gonna cause some fights with that statement.
Not my favorite, but not my least favorite.
I mean, I'm not gonna fight you on that one.
Thor Ragnarok.
I'm an enormous media nerd as my degree. I have a bit of paper proving this. I think, like, I'm really tempted to say something like, I was also thinking like Mandalorian, like the Star Trek being good again, but really, I think it's streaming services.
Yeah.
Because all of these things that we're talking about, or a huge majority of them, are based on these streaming services can actually make it worthwhile to make stuff that would never ever have been possible before.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's like, yeah, I liked Strange New Worlds so much that I wept because it was like my childhood again. I loved. I think Sandman is great. I adored Good Omens.
God, I had totally forgotten about Good Omens. That
Yeah.
show was so good.
Yeah, Good Omens was fantastic, and like, and it's and again, it's like I love the book so much. Like, I never thought an adaptation could do it justice, and I was wrong.
Yeah, and like, and this is, and it's gotten to the point where even stuff that I'm like, whatever, I'm willing to give a shot to, because hey, maybe it'll be great. Like WandaVision, you would never have gotten me to watch WandaVision 15 years ago. I would have been like, no, I don't care. I was wrapped. It was awesome.
And part of it too has been the adoption of what's funny about this is the adoption of the British shorter run of a series, which has a total, like, a valid reason for existing in the first place, because every British show has to be funded out of the public fund. And as, special effects and, everything has gotten more expensive, they could make fewer shows. Like, they couldn't do a full series run of like 12 to 15 episodes. Instead, they would do 6 because that's what the money would cover. But like, it's a good size for a show, dependent upon knowing that, like, just around the corner is going to be another 6 episode show. And
and
like, the cost of failure is less because, you threw out this, we're going to throw this idea out and we'll see if it sticks. And if not, we'll try something in the next 6 episode show.
Yeah. And it's also drawing from the Japanese, like, especially anime structure, where seasons are planned out as, like, it's not, you don't have shows that are trying to end on a cliffhanger because the optimal thing is to get people just raving for the next season in a desperate attempt to get the next thing. So you can actually, like, tell stories and they can be self-contained, and that doesn't have to be the end of the show forever.
Hey, Thalen, one of us should probably mention DuckTales.
Oh, yes. One of us should. DuckTales was so good.
It was great, and it really should have been 4 seasons.
It should have.
Because they ended up giving short shrift to Huey and Webby because they clearly wanted to do a full season 3 that was a Huey season, and then a full season 4 that was a Webby season. And I'm sad we didn't get a full Webby season. It was just like a single episode. and I to this day wonder how much like the pitch of we're gonna focus on Webby for season 4 is why it got cut.
Yeah.
The other big like media thing for me is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Partly because watching them stick the landing was pretty amazing to see, but
and these are
also
super hard, so definitely props on that one.
Yeah, like that's super hard to do, and yet they did it. But also it meant that we were largely done with dumb summer blockbusters. Dumb summer blockbusters are dead. We have more interesting stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna pick probably MCU. That was one of my choices, and just going back to the streaming stuff, like we got the revival of like cool summer blockbusters, and again all these interesting, weird kind of shows that are coming out now too. So
Yeah, I love that they're doing that with the MCU, and that it's apparently succeeding, like using the movies for the major events, and then using shows to do just, various things. Like now we have a lawyer show with superheroes.
It's that cross media thing that was promised in the early 2000s and went terribly.
Yeah, Thalen, if I had told you in 2005 that there was going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy movie with the budget of a James Bond film,
I would have thought you were insane.
No, I would not have believed it. And in fact, when it was originally announced, I was like, "Are they crazy? No one is going to sign up for Guardians of the Galaxy."
If you
They're
said
a great
Rocket Raccoon
team,
and
but
Groot are going to be the like big hit characters, like what?
Yeah, and that it would be good.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And yet, like, and that succeeded, and like it made me realize that like absolutely everything they have is on the table and can be good. They're going to do a Werewolf by Night show.
Yeah, Moon Knight.
Moon Knight was phenomenal.
Moon Knight happened and was amazing. Like that, at this point, there is no character like obscure or silly enough that I could like reasonably say no, they're not going to make a show out of that.
And like
the bit that gets me though is that if you had told me this, I'd been like, "Huh, that's interesting." And then you told me that it's all Marvel but no X-Men, I would have never believed you.
Yeah.
Also true.
Yeah.
Yep.
For a long time, to me, the X-Men were Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely.
The X-Men and Superman, Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was Marvel in the 90s. Like I'm always amused by people talking about how, in recent years talking about, Captain America or Iron Man and being like, these are always A-list characters. I'm like, no, Iron Man was never above a B-list character and was often C-list. Nobody knew who Iron Man was.
Like Cap has always been my person because I loved the shield.
Yeah.
And like it was so cool. Like I wanted to bounce shields off things.
Yeah, Captain America at least had the iconic costume going for him. Like he was like the average person, like if they saw a picture of Captain America, there's a good chance they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's Captain America." They wouldn't know anything about him. They wouldn't know he was Steve Rogers. Anything he did.
I've got to admit, like I was thinking about this the other day, that probably a lot of the reason why I have always gravitated towards tanks in MMOs is I loved Captain America growing up. Like I wanted to run around with a shield
and rubber ears,
and crazy boots with like overlap on the sides.
Oh, I love his Buccaneer boots. Yeah. Sad he hasn't had those in the movies ever.
The MCU got me to actually like Captain America for the first time in my life. He spent my entire childhood as my most despised superhero. Second most despised superhero.
I mean, the MCU...
After Superman?
Yeah, after Superman. No, sorry, after Batman. Superman was number 3.
All right.
MCU got me to like superheroes, other than Spider-Man, who I've always had a crush on, and came to my birthday party when I was 4.
That's awesome.
Other than Spider-Man, I never really cared about superheroes, but now I kind of do. And the movies are great, and the TV is great, and I'm still excited to see more of it. Which that's if you had asked me,
that's
like, would you be excited about the 18th movie in a cinematic universe about superheroes? No.
Yeah, but it turns out there's enough breadth in there that you could do 18 movies and they don't all feel the same.
I'm kind of disappointed at how flat the DC cinematic universe fell. Because if you asked me back in like the early 2000s what superheroes I liked, it was not Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
I was on Cartoon Network watching Justice League Unlimited and Teen Titans.
Yeah.
And
because they were so good on TV.
They were so
DC
good.
ruled television in the 90s
Yeah.
and aughts. Like
Well-
there were Marvel cartoons that were okay, but nothing that held a candle to Batman.
Well, and DC had the best team up properties as well.
Yeah.
Like at least from a cartoon standpoint, all the best team up cartoons were on DC. Batman Brave and the Bold is an amazing team up series where it mines like the most obscure people for Batman to team up with.
I mean, you can't talk obscure without talking about Justice League Unlimited.
Mm-hmm. Shining Knight.
I think the problem is, and this is all I can end up at, is Warner Brothers has not been willing to stay devoted to a vision and see it through.
Warner Brothers has no respect for comics. Like I think ultimately that's what it is. DC has been owned by Warner Brothers for decades. It was owned by Warner Brothers, before even the television stuff came out. But Warner Brothers also had no respect for television. So like the TV guys, like they could do what they could do what they wanted, and so we ended up with something that was actually good. But Warner Brothers is run by film execs, and they have opinions, and they want to put their stamp on things, and their opinions are bad. Whereas Marvel, when they started making their own movies, it was Marvel making their own movies. They weren't owned by Disney yet. And so the movies were controlled by people who actually had some respect for the source material. And instead of trying to change it to make it like what a movie should be, they adapted it to make it work as a movie. And I don't know. I don't think Warner Brothers. Well, certainly now. I will be surprised if we get good DC anything in the next decade.
I think the only good DC films we're going to get is anything that flies under the radar.
I mean, those are all going to get canceled. Batgirl might have been amazing. We're never going to know. Like the good DC stuff, like the stuff like Doom Patrol, like that's not happening anymore.
Right. Yeah.
If you wanted to watch Doom Patrol, if you've been holding out and like meant to get around to it, I would go watch it because it's probably going to vanish from HBO Max pretty soon.
Ethical piracy. Just saying.
Yep.
Shout out to the future hero who leaks late footage of Batgirl.
Mm-hmm.
Also, maybe our tax code is terrible if you can earn money by not showing me art.
Could be. When destroying something makes you more money than creating something, that's a pretty good sign we got a problem.
Okay, so this one we got a couple more, and running long on time, so let's see if we throw them. But this one I thought was interesting, and I mean I feel like we probably all have the same answer to it. But do you see yourself always gaming into your 60s, 70s, or 80s?
God, yes.
Heck
yeah.
Why would I stop?
Exactly. Why would I stop? I mean, like we have Saul as a prime example.
I was gonna say, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
point behind me in the room next to me where my mother is probably playing Genshin Impact or Guild Wars 2 right now. I mean, that's my mom has always been my quote unquote good bad example for just about everything. So, yep, that's me. That's me.
Yeah, like there's no point in ever stopping. Like it's not a phase, Mom.
Yeah. Like I actually I was thinking about this question, and it occurred to me that like honestly my 60s and then retirement age are going to be not long after my son is an adult and presumably moves out of the house. Like I mean, we'll see. And suddenly I'll have a lot of free time again, and you best believe a lot of that free time is going to be spent gaming.
Yeah, like we in the EverQuest 2 guild that I was in for years, there's this guy named Tor, and he was a retiree, and he had like everything leveled to every profession, and if you ever needed anything, he was the guy that could hook you up, and it was amazing. And like he played, I think he had like 12 characters in EQ2, and they were all capped out, and he played all of them a little bit at a time, and he was happy as a clam, and I was super jealous of it.
Maybe I'll finally get around to crafting that homebrew campaign I've always wanted. Like, but yeah, I want to be gaming into old age.
I think that's gonna be just a thing, especially you know our generation and in anything younger. Like I think that's just a thing. Like that's just part of our life now.
I think that, and the exact timing of this is probably uncertain. I think that in my early 50s, I'm going to probably go and just disabuse myself of all technology more or less permanently and like start a farm.
I don't believe you.
Alternately, you're going to bring your Steam Deck on that farm.
It was really hard to keep a straight face through all of that, let me tell you.
I mean, as I've gotten older, I've definitely focused on different hobbies in addition to gaming, and anticipate I'll continue to change because I'm a person, and if I don't change by the time I'm 80, something is wrong. But I don't see myself stopping gaming.
Yeah. Like it's entirely possible I'll be playing different games. I mean, I'll certainly be playing different games. It'll be new games, but you know, different sorts of games. But I'll
even
still be
then,
gaming.
there's still going to be a backlog of things that I've never gotten around to.
Yes.
I mean, I finally collected All Stray Beats and Okami a few weeks ago, and I played that game when it came out in 2006.
Okay, this next one's also interesting. What gaming genres do you want to explore a bit more?
More?
I feel like I don't understand the question.
I'm reading it exactly as it was written. Like, are there any gaming genres that you're not into right now that you might want to get into? It's kind of my interpretation.
I've wanted to try like the XCOM kind of games. I've never played those a lot. Like I got XCOM 2 and I haven't tried it yet. And I feel like it's something I would dig, but I've just not really jumped into it yet. And I feel like I would enjoy it if I did.
If you have a Switch, Mario and Rabbids is a great intro to that style.
I was about to say that exact same thing.
Really? Okay. I
Yup.
do have a Switch, so maybe I will do that. Interesting.
Wait, that's an XCOM style game?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it
Did
is.
not know this.
That game is unbelievably better than it has any right to be.
Absolutely this.
They gave Mario a gun.
I mean, I knew that.
Yeah, that game is surprisingly good.
Strange.
They're making a sequel soon.
I am certainly completely stuck on the post-game content because the post-game content gets nonsense. But up to that point, it's quite reasonable.
I mean, it's not the only Nintendo game that takes this approach.
I honestly can't say that I have any genres that I necessarily want to explore that I haven't already explored.
Yeah, like I'm not aware of any that I haven't at least tried out.
Like I have these games every so often that I cannot wrap my head around and cannot get into a position where I enjoy them, but then oftentimes eventually it will click. Prime examples of that are Guild Wars 2 and Path of Exile. Warframe is another one of these, and maybe someday I will figure out a way to play Warframe that doesn't make me nauseous.
I will say there are some genres where I tend to have a hard time getting into games in the genre because they tend to be overwhelming. And a lot of like big strategy games are like this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Things like Endless Legend or even Stellaris, really. Various 4X games, various grand strategy games. It's a little much. And I tend to enjoy the ones I get into, but it's really hard to get into them because there is a gigantic wall of initial complexity.
I mean, the one for me that I have been easing my way towards recently is that I have never actually played a mainline Pokemon game. I played a bunch of tangential things. I watched the TV show back in the day. I just never actually played the game. And I think I would love it. And I just don't know why I haven't recently. I have a Switch.
No, I think you probably would.
Yeah.
I think so.
It's the daunting thing of like, what is the best place to start? Because there's a lot of baggage.
I know
That's
that
fair.
feeling.
Probably the most recent one.
Yeah, I mean, and I've been easing my way in through other Pokemon games that are adjacent, but yeah.
The good thing about most Pokemon games, not so much Diamond and Pearl remakes because they made some changes there, is that most of them are intended to be beaten by a 10-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you're doing post-game content or battling other players, use what you like kind of just works.
Yeah, that's fair. I keep thinking about the post game stuff, and I really probably shouldn't. But also, I think about the amount of time that I played games when I was 10 years old, and don't
That's fair.
necessarily want to do that with the Pokemon game. So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean,
That is
Pokemon
also a
Sword was
fair
my
statement.
first. Yeah. I was kind of in the same boat, and Pokemon Sword was the first actual like mainline Pokemon game that I played. And I haven't like quite finished it. It's one I pick up and put down a lot, but my thing was like I was always worried about like picking like, oh my gosh, do I want to pick this skill? Do I want to overwrite that one? And then I just kind of decided to just kind of go with it, and I just had a lot more fun that way.
I will say one of my favorite things about Legends Arceus is that they don't make you pick. You just swap out stuff you know all the time. It's great.
That sounds great.
And that game, because it is a rather different style than most of the mainline Pokemon games, but is still like catch and battle Pokemon, might make a good intro too. That was a surprisingly good game to come out this year. Well, like I don't know how surprising that actually was, but that was a very good game.
But yeah, I definitely know that feeling of like, I'd like to try out this franchise, but where do I start? Like, I think it was last week I asked about, the new Xenoblade game. Like, because like technically there's like a dozen games in that series.
Well, the Xeno series overall, yes.
Yeah, that's what. It's like theoretically I should start with Xenogears, but that's a 25-year-old game on the PlayStation at this point. So,
but also you can start with Xenoblade 3, really.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
So controversial take. Battle royales.
Yep.
Because
it's not really controversial.
Well, I mean, this group maybe.
I mean,
actually wanting to try it. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything controversial about wanting to try battle royale games.
Well, it's not so much try. It's like I want to be more into them and conversant than I am.
I will say no build Fortnite kind of lowered the barrier, at least in that game.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does seem like extra weird to me now that like the game that started as a build and defend a base game has done away with the building. But hey,
just Fortnite is such a weird phenomenon that I feel like there's a gap in my like understanding of the current games landscape if I'm not like reasonably conversant in them.
Yeah, like it's especially like given your job, like Fortnite and Roblox seem like things you probably need to know about.
Yeah, and like I got into Roblox just to be familiar with it a couple of years ago, and it was fascinating.
Like there are elements of Roblox that are deeply weird to me, but like the overall concept, I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, Second Life was a thing. This sounds sort of like that, but blockier. I don't know. I'm just mostly amazed that Roblox like managed to keep going and not get sued into oblivion by various IP holders.
I mean, they have been sued at least once, but they're doing fine. But also, if you want to find out where those Second Life people went off to, it's VR chat.
That makes sense.
Well, and then a certain percentage of those are bailing out of VR chat for something else now.
I mean, yes, because they did a dump, but still.
Okay, so we have our last question. What do you think gaming would look like in 20 years?
And I almost want to be that like we'll answer this in the next show because that is a topic that I put on there.
So you remember that scene in Back to the Future 2 with the
with Jaws coming out of the movie theater.
no, with Marty showing off his gunsmoke skills and the kids mocking him. Yeah, you play it with your hands. It's like a baby's toy. In all honesty, I have no clue.
I got no clue.
Yeah.
Like 20 years ago, I would not have predicted the state of games now. Like I mean, I have to assume that within the next 20 years there will be more than one game that changes the landscape the way that like Minecraft and Fortnite did. And I do not know what those could possibly be.
My prediction is 20 years from now, we will still be just on the cusp of VR being a thing.
Nice.
Like we have been for the past.
Since the
That's
90s.
fair. That seems like an accurate assessment. But 20 years ago, I would not have been able to predict World of Warcraft, so I'm not even going to bother trying to guess.
Well,
But you can
once
absolutely
again-
take your answer in the next episode since you have a
We
specific.
can end on a
topic.
cliffhanger, like we're
Yeah.
actually have plans.
right? Yeah, I mean, I might because it's not short.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, full disclosure for anybody who like doesn't know and listens to the show, which I have to imagine is a small number of people. Like, gaming futurism is literally my job. I drive product development in video games, and so like I spend at least an hour a day thinking about this.
Yeah, I have no idea. My guess is there's going to be some new technology that comes about and changes the scene. That's my pitch.
Yeah, I don't have any clue. I think that VR thing is a pretty safe bet. maybe we'll get to the point where people consider mobile games, but
People with lots of money consider them games now.
Sure. But, my mom, who used to play tons of mobile games, would never have even realized that she was, or think that she was playing video games. Maybe that will change.
Okay. I think we recorded a Q&A show.
This
was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was entertaining. Yeah.
Thank you for all your questions.
Yep. As always, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and it is weird that it's 400 of them.
Madness.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll do this again when we hit 600.
If you have more questions or you didn't get yours submitted, just, tweet them at AggroChat. We'll probably answer them.
Yeah.
Eventually, maybe. I'm just saying, some of our topics have been on the list for a very long time because they are big.
This is true.
Oh, we ran a little long, so this will be a little bit of a long show, but I guess we'll wrap it up. We'll see you next week for a normal show.
Where we talk about a lot of Path of Exile.
Yeah, lots of Path of Exile and making lakefront property.
And also gaming futurism.
Yes.
Yep.
We've committed to the bit now.
Yeah. I mean, I want to hear this. I'm interested.
Anyway. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.